Will everyone please join me in Gasho? It is simply Shinjin that is inconceivable, inexplicable, and indescribable. It is like the medicine that eradicates all poisons. The medicine of the Tathagata's vow destroys the poisons of our wisdom and foolishness. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam Bandats. Nam Bandats. Nam Bandats. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us virtually today on our last Sunday service for the month of March. And with the month of March, spring has come. And if you're wondering, these flowers are the ones that are in bloom, are the cherry blossoms that are in bloom in the garden in the back of our temple. And they are very beautiful to see. So if you have come by the temple in recent days, you will have noticed that these flowers are in full bloom. It is wonderful. And it is wonderful to see such beauty in a time that, that has a lot of us filled with some anxiety. So just some recent updates. There has been a brief change in who is living at the parsonage currently. Reverend Cindy had some business to attend to down in Southern California. So to ensure that I wasn't left alone this weekend, my brother came up to join me. So my brother is currently visiting me here from Southern California as well. This is a picture of my brother Kazuo, and he is visiting me here in Japan when I was living in Japan, and we're on the train. So it's been very wonderful having my brother here to keep me company, and we've just been watching lots and lots of Oscar-nominated movies, and later on tonight, we plan to watch the Oscars ceremony, and my brother has his predictions. He kind of does this almost the same way as when March Madness comes out, and the various people pick the teams. My brother likes to pick who's going to win Best Picture, Best Actor, etc., etc. So it's been a very fun visit for me, an interesting change. And for the record, I definitely miss having Reverend Cindy here at home. So what does today's Gosandai mean? What does today's Gosandai mean? So to put it very briefly, it is our trust in the Buddha Dharma and Amida Buddha that guides us in life and always continues to teach us. More importantly, our trust, our shinjin, our trust in the teachings is what eradicates and destroys the poisons of our wisdom and our foolishness. Now, wait a minute. What did I just say? The poisons of both wisdom and foolishness? Now, of course, foolishness we can probably understand. When we talk about foolishness, right, there are the times that we get angry, frustrated, or we get really upset, or we have these feelings and these moments of unrest and anger. But what about wisdom? Well, I thought wisdom was a good thing. Isn't it a good thing to know things, or isn't it really good to have knowledge of things? Many of you, for those of you who are watching right now, I'm wondering, actually, I'll ask our wonderful chairperson today, Kate, do you know who this is?
Well, I would want to say Bach because I feel like the curls, but you know, I don't.
Kate, you are very close. So that was a good guess. It's actually
Mozart?
It is Mozart. Yes, it is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Thank you. Now, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart can be considered a musical genius. He was an incredible, gifted musician. And many of you probably have seen the 1980s movie that was about him starring Tom Hulce as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Unlike the movie, though, which has proven to be somewhat historically inaccurate and has taken a lot of artistic liberties, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, even during his days, was appreciated as a musical artist. His music was understood, or people did understand that he was brilliant. He was a genius. He was probably the most talented musician of his time. He composed music that we still listen to this very day. Some of, we hear a lot of like one hits in our times or in the various decades that we, listen to at times, but Mozart actually is still listened to this very day. And sometimes his music is put in modern interpretations of music today. But again, right, so this person was a genius. And yet, at the same time, he had his share of problems. Um, he definitely did have a problem in overindulgence when it came to drinking. He also had a problem with gambling and overspending. Now, unlike the movie that portrayed him kind of like penniless or very poor, he wasn't exactly poor. He was actually pretty well off. But the problem was that when he would earn lots of money, he would go to great lengths to spend that money as well. So again, this person is this creative genius, very talented and wonderful, and was extremely well thought of and respected by his peers. And yet he had his share of problems. And we don't know exactly what happened, but tragically, Mozart passed away very early in his life. So there's an example of a genius, of a person who knows a lot of wisdom. And today, I should say that his music is still respected and well thought of today. Now, I'm certain you all know who this person is. This is Albert Einstein, another person who's considered to be a genius. He has, he founded a lot of scientific theory that many of modern day scientists base their theories off today. He was definitely a person who was ahead of his time. He was also a very strong humanitarian, did not believe in nationalism or any type of nation building. He was a great thinker and a wonderful scholar, and like I said, very much ahead of his time. A genius, a person who knew almost too much. And yet, he also did not go in his life without regret or in terms of struggle. Many of you probably know this, but Albert Einstein, as a young person, struggled a lot. And it wasn't because that he wasn't smart. It was because that he was living in a system that wasn't really meant for people like him, that was of his genius. So he often slacked off in school, he cut school, he would probably act out. He was in an environment where people didn't understand him, and he wasn't in an environment where his genius could be nurtured. So he also had sufferings as well. And the sad thing was, and of course, as we all know, the controversy of World War II, Albert Einstein had an indirect link to the creating of the atomic bomb, and which of course now leads to nuclear weapons. And sadly, and even in his later age, Albert Einstein says that he regrets playing even if it was indirect, the indirect part of suggesting to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to research into nuclear weapons when he did, because he thought that Germany was doing so as well. And he's been quoted saying that if he knew that, had he known that Germany was not experimenting with nuclear weapons, he never would have written that letter. So again, a person who has great knowledge and great wisdom, and yet also feels a sense of regret towards the end of his life for the indirect part that he might have played in the creating of the atomic bomb. But of course, that alone does not taint Albert Einstein's legacy, nor does it overshadow his major accomplishments in the scientific realm. So my point about the poisons of wisdom isn't to say that wisdom is bad. Wisdom is neither good nor bad. Wisdom can help us and help us accomplish great feats and solve complex problems. Wisdom, with knowledge and wisdom, we can use these tools in order to help create a better society. We can use wisdom in order to understand each other a lot better. We can use wisdom to solve problems that are in our society right now, and we can use wisdom to basically better our own lives. And yet, wisdom can also be used in destructive ways as well. And this is why I like the term knowledge is power. Because again, power is something that is very, very great, but it can be very wonderful in some ways, but it can also be dangerous in some ways. So this is why I think Shinran was talking about the poisons of wisdom. If we become too aware of our brilliance, it can lead to arrogance and selfishness. And then another quote by our good friend, Dr. Albert Einstein: "The only thing more dangerous than ignorance is arrogance." These are the poisons of wisdom that Shinran was talking about, that Shinran was writing about. And the same is true with Buddhism. Many of us know a lot. Many of us are Buddhist scholars. We may know a lot about the sutras, the famous teachers, and we may be able to pull Buddhist quotes from our minds like libraries. I have a picture on the side of the Amida Sutra. Maybe some of you have memorized this sutra. And if not this sutra, I'm certain that a good portion of you on this call have probably memorized by the sound of Jusei Ge. You've probably memorized Jusei Ge and how it goes. Ga gon shosei gan hishimu jodo. And this is wonderful. And it's not that we shouldn't know more or learn more. Our school strongly encourages us to continue our education and continue to learn from the Dharma. This isn't to say that we shouldn't know more or that we should stop learning or that we should stop trying to better ourselves. I'm not saying, hopefully I'm hoping one day everybody on this call might eventually memorize the entirety of Shinran Shonin's Shoshin Nembutsuge, so we can all chant it together eventually here in the Hondo of Tacoma Buddhist Temple, and we can chant it in unison as one, and it will be a wonderful sounding homage to Amida Buddha. So I'm not saying don't do these things. I'm not saying don't learn. I'm not saying don't memorize things. Oh, sorry. But it's the main thing that we have to check and that we have to really pay attention to is our ego. Our ego is the one to watch out for. And let's be honest, the ego is a powerful thing for all of us. The ego is a powerful thing for me. The ego is a powerful thing for you. And again, ego, in a sense, can be a poison to the great wisdom of the Dharma. So this is our own wisdom, our own calculation, what we already know. And when we know that we know lots of things, our ego tends to get a bit bigger. One of the main doctrines of our religion is that we cannot abandon our ego through self-power. With our own power, with our own effort, we cannot get rid of those poisons that constantly prop us up and make us look proud and make us look and feel good about ourselves in an arrogant way. We have these in all of us, this poison with our wisdom, whether it be a degree, whether it be a position that we have in society, or whether it be a certain position that we have in our job. We all have these things to kind of prop ourselves up. Maybe it's the kind of car you drive. Maybe it's how much money we all make. It's all of this is basically, in a sense, to say that can be a poison to our wisdom, or the poisons of wisdom and foolishness. So probably for us as humans, the hardest thing to do is admit that we need help. Now, and on a mundane level, it's very easy for us to sort of ask for help. When we have certain bazaar festivals here, we all seem to be able to come together and work as a group, work as a team, and it's wonderful. But sometimes when we have other existential crises, when we have high amounts of stress, when we feel like our mental health is not doing very good, it's sometimes hard for us to ask for help, because it's very hard for us to admit that despite all of our brilliance and despite our wonderful accomplishments, we still can't solve all of our problems on our own. Admitting to ourselves and others that we aren't invincible or that we aren't perfect. It's very hard for us to sometimes seek help. It's very hard for us to admit that we can't do it on our own. Our entrusting of Amida is the medicine that helps to destroy the poisons of our wisdom and foolishness. When we rely on Amida's true wisdom and compassion, we say Namo Amida Butsu. So this is the type of medicine or the type of wisdom that is true wisdom. And this is wisdom that is given to us by Amida Buddha, by Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. And in this sense, when we talk about our own ego and our blind passions, we think of wisdom as the opposite to foolishness, right? We think that wisdom is the problem solver to our foolishness. Our foolishness, once again, kind of represents our base ego, our base nature. You know, when we want the way that we want things, or the way that we covet things, or the way that we want things to be a certain way. I want it my way. This has to be it. And then when things don't go our way, we get angry, or we get frustrated or upset. And again, I say we because I am just as guilty of feeling this way when things don't go my way as well. And it's a good thing that my brother is not here on this call right now. He has to work. But if my brother were here, he would tell you, he would be nodding his head in fervent agreement of this fact. But then wisdom is another thing too that we have to watch out for. And again, I'm not saying that knowing more or being studied or learned is bad. It's very, very good, and I encourage it. I encourage all of our Dharma school students to do very well in school, to study really hard, but it's what becomes of this knowledge after we attain it. It's what becomes of the wisdom we gain when we are gifted it. What do we do with this wisdom? What do we do with this knowledge? Do we hoard it to ourselves and keep it to ourselves so that we know more? We shouldn't do that. That is a poison of wisdom. Should we use this wisdom to hurt others or to surpass others or to try and defeat others? That is also not Buddhist wisdom. We use wisdom in order to help others and be kind to others and compassionate to others. So the opposite of wisdom, I guess in this sense, the opposite of wisdom and foolishness would be more like the Buddhist wisdom and compassion. So foolishness would be our selfishness and our own self-driven desires and passions. And the evil wisdom would be like, you know, trying to get ahead to learn more so we can get the fancy degree for our own personal reasons, or to surpass another person, or to defeat another person. But the Buddhist type of wisdom is the wisdom that we use to help others, to be compassionate to others, and that would be the opposite of foolishness. So this month's theme for March is enlightenment. And I'm talking actually about the Buddhist concept of enlightenment being given to us freely by Amida Buddha, this type of wisdom, this type of compassion, right? We have our own wisdom and egocentric selves that we have to contend with every day and that we have to use to sort of live our lives here in this world. But at the same time, in this world, we also experience moments of understanding, compassion, empathy, understanding, and love for all people. And that is the wisdom and compassion that is given to us freely by Amida Buddha. So again, I am not saying that people's academic accomplishments or your promotions or your accomplishments or even your economic achievements are bad things. I am not saying that. These are wonderful things and wonderful accomplishments to be proud of, but I think it's also important for us as Buddhists to remember that it doesn't end there. These aren't the end-all, be-all of how we are supposed to be. We also must use our wisdom and compassion. We also must use the tools that are freely given to us from the realm of the Dharma. And with that in mind, I would like to ask you all to join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Nam Nam.